Hello all, welcome to Selenium Python Training Series. In this session, as part of utilities, I am going to explain and practically demonstrate how to perform data-driven testing by reading the data from the Excel files. So let's get started. So we have to write some code and all, which I'm going to demonstrate in this session for you. So let's quickly switch to this PyCharm ID and let's create a new project here. I'll just name this project as data-driven testing with Excel. Data-driven testing with Excel. Okay. So this is the name of the project I have mentioned. And I'm going to go step by step. I'm not going to directly jump into, how to create all the stuff in the first go. We'll go step by step and modify the code in such a way that finally we'll read the data from the Excel file into this, parameterized test and all those stuff. So first of all, we have created a normal project here and let's close this main.py file. Otherwise, let's delete this. It's of no use for us. So right click and delete this main.py file, which is coming by default while creating the project. Once the project is created, then what we are going to do next is I'm going to create a new Python file. I'll just name this as test underscore, okay, data driven. I'm just giving the name of this Python file as data driven for sample. Just press enter. The Python file got created. And in this Python file, I would like to create a method, okay, def test. I'll say login here, okay, test login, circular brackets, colon, and all those stuff. Here, in this method, I would like to receive username and password, okay, for login. So I would like to parameterize this method. Okay, I would like to parameterize this method. How that is possible with the help of Pytest. I would say Pytest dot mark dot parameterize, but for the more than Pytest and it's not there. It's asking me to install Pytest because in this is a new project where Pytest is not yet installed. Let's go to the terminal here and let's install the Pytest. So pip space install space Pytest and press enter. In a while, Pytest will be installed in this project. Let's wait for the Pytest to get installed. After that, we can parameterize this particular test to run for multiple sets of data. Okay, this part I already covered, right? How to parameterize a method and all those stuff using Pytest I covered in the previous sessions here. You can see and go through this Pytest series in the previous sessions where I already covered how to parameterize. Somewhere here, I covered. Just let me take you there. Where is that? So these are all the Pytest related topics which I covered in the, you see, parameterization in Pytest using inbuilt marker and all those stuff. Okay. So this is where I covered the parameterization that I'm going to explain you again. Don't worry. So after installing this Pytest here, select this project, go to settings. After going to settings, select this project and under the project, select Python interpreter. Then just for double check, even though we have installed Pytest from this terminal, let's also install from this PyCharm ID options. Just search for Pytest and select this Pytest and install. Even though it got installed from terminal, I just make sure that it's double checked. So I'll install from here also so that nothing goes wrong. Say okay. Now it got installed. Now we can write down Pytest dot mark dot parameterize. Pytest, I think we have to import this Pytest first of all. Import this Pytest. After that, mark dot parameterize you will get. In that, provide circular brackets. And this username password you have to receive, right? We'll parameterize here. Just put double quotes and first one. Provide this username, comma, this password. Okay. And after that, you provide multiple sets of data in the form of a list. Inside this list, again, you will create multiple set of lists like this. Okay. Let's say I would like to pass 3 sets of data to this as part of parameterization. I would like to run this particular test with 3 sets of data. If I provide 3 sets of data, this particular test method is going to run 3 times as covered in the previous session. Okay, so here I'll give username like to a moturi cap a moturi. I'll say 1@gmail.com, and here I'll give the password as second, let's say. Now let me give the second set of data, a motori 2, I'll say @gmail, another Gmail address. And what is the password? Second set of data, I'm giving the password here. That is second is the password, let's assume. And now third set of data, I'm giving the username, comma, password I'm going to enter. Username is a motori3@gmail.com. Password is second, like the three sets of data I mentioned. Now, if I provide here print logged in using username plus find password and give a colon symbol if required, that's okay, plus password I'll write down. Okay, here we are parameterizing this test like this. Okay, we have parameterized the test like this. That means this is still data driven testing only, where you have parameterized this test to run with multiple sets of data. Here, three sets of data I provided. As part of this, I provided three sets of data. This is the first set of data. This will go into username and this will pass here. This will go into the password and that will be passed here. Okay. That's the first set of data and the test will run for the one time with this username password. And since there are multiple sets of data here, this is the second set of data. For the test will run for the second time. And with this third set of data, the test will run third time. Okay. So how many sets of data you provide, that many times the test will run. So let's run this and see whether it is working fine or not. After that, I'll optimize this code and take you to that next level where we'll read from this particular multiple sets of data from the Excel file instead of providing directly here in this parameterized method. Let's go to terminal CLS and type down Pytest -v space -s. Okay. So V for verbose and S will print the output. Okay. These print statements will be printed because of this S. Now, when I press enter here, this will run. You see, the same test got executed, test login test. This particular test login method got executed how many times? 3 times it got executed. Test login, test login, test login. Every time it got executed with different set of data. You see, first set of data, that is a motori1@gmail.com with second password, a motori2@gmail.com, second, a motori3@gmail.com with second password. Okay, three sets of data and print statements got printed here. You see, so logged in using username. This is a username, that is amotori1@gmail.com, password second, and logged in using username amotori2@gmail.com, password second. Logged in using username amotori3@gmail.com and password second. That's good. Now I'm going to take this code to the next level where, to get this particular data, I'll create a function here. I'll simply say def get data and name it. Okay, when you call this function, right, it will get you the number of sets of data. How means I'll just create a return statement followed by list of this part, list of list items. Return like this. It should return a list containing multiple set of lists. For example, this is one list, comma, second list of that second set of data and third set of data. The first set of data, I'll provide these values. This is the first set of data. And now let me provide the second set of data. This is the second set of data. The second set of data that I am passing. When I call this function, all this list of lists will come with multiple sets of data. Now I'll go with the third set of data. I'll copy this third set of data and provide that. So here, third set of data. So when I call this function, so where I should call this function? Here. Instead of passing this data directly here, I'll remove this data. This multiple sets of data which I provided in the parameterized decorator, right? That I'll remove from here. This part I'll remove. And here, I'll just call this function. Okay, I'll just call this method or function, username, comma, password, and get data means it will get you the list of data. That's what you provided here. Now you made it part of a function. You are simply calling the function. You are getting the multiple set of data here, and the test login should work should run 3 times because get data will give you a list of 3 sets of data. For every set of data, the test login will run. Now let's see whether this approach is working fine or not. This is second step. CLS and say Pytest -v-s. You should get the same output. You see test login got executed how many times? 3 times with 3 sets of first set of data. One time it got run. 1@gmail.com, 2@gmail.com, 3@gmail.com, and print statements also got printed. 1@gmail, 2@gmail, 3@gmail.com got printed. Okay. Now we'll move to the third level, where instead of in that third level, instead of passing the data like this data will read from the Excel file. Okay. Here we'll write the code under the get data to read the data from the Excel file. Rather than hard coding the data here in the get data function, we're going to get this data by reading it from, we'll write the logic here for reading these 3 sets of data from the Excel file. So for that, I'll create a new folder. I'll just name that as Excel files folder. Under this, I'll create an Excel file. Let me go to one location where this Excel file is already there. So this is the Excel file we have. I'll open this Excel file and you see with the name tutorials in Java Create, you can give any name. And in that Excel file, you see there are 3 sets of data. amo31@gmail.com second. amo32, the same set of data is there, right? This data I would like to read from the Excel file and return, whoever calls this function, right? The logic should be written here for reading the data from that Excel file. These 3 sets of data should be written from this Excel file and it should be returned to this calling function, okay, calling statement, okay? And this should utilize in this method. That's what is the intention. So what I'll do here is under the Excel files, I'll copy paste this Excel file containing the 3 sets of data. Here sheet name is login test. Under that we have this username and password. So I'll copy this Excel file, which is ready-made for me, and paste it here. You can create it out by yourself. Okay. So before doing all this stuff, now clear all this stuff. So in get data, I'm going to write the logic for reading that 3 sets of data. Instead of hard coding here on the get data, I'm going to read the data, 3 sets of data from this Excel file. How? For that, I have to write the logic here. How to write the logic, I'll tell you. So here I'll write down. First, I'll create a, final underscore list, I'll say, is equal to list. Okay, this is one thing. So this should be a list of list that will be created at the end. Don't worry. And after that, I would like to read the data from this Excel file. For that, what I have to do is I have to install a package for reading the data from the Excel files to write the code here. Python doesn't have the inbuilt capability. Rather, we have to depend on another package that we have to install, that is OpenPyXL. Okay. So here, come here and simply say pip install OpenPyXL and press enter. It will be installing this package, which will be, the reason for which will be helping us in writing the code for reading the data from the Excel files. Okay. So once it is installed, it's better that as double check I always do. I'll go to the project, select that, go to settings, go to the project name, select interpreter, plus, and here I'll say OpenPyXL and select that package name and install again. Okay, even though you have installed from terminal, just for backup or double check, I'm installing from PyCharm ID options also. So close that, say okay, that's it. Now here write the code. Since the library is now there, OpenPyXL, just say dot OpenPyXL dot. Is it working? Yeah, load workbook. It's working. OpenPyXL got imported and load workbook came. Here we have to give the path of the Excel file. This is the Excel file. We have to give the path. This Excel file is under this folder under the project. So I'll give directly under the project, under the Excel files folder. We have this tutorials ninja dot xlsx file. Okay, and it will return you the workbook. The statement, I covered all this stuff in the previous sessions. You can look into that. Workbook is equal to, now say workbook of, I have to give the sheet name, that is login test is the sheet name. If you remember, if I open that Excel file, right, the sheet name is login test. Okay, I'll show you again. I'll go to the location where the Excel file is available in this project in my machine. I'll open that. I'll show you. When I open this workbook, here the sheet name is login test. Okay, that I am giving. So now what I will do here is this will give you the sheet. Now I need to find out the number of total rows. You see how many rows are there here in this particular sheet? How many rows are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, total 4 rows. How to get this number of rows? For that, I'll say row count. Okay, total rows. Otherwise, total rows or row count, whatever you want to give, you can give. Total rows is equal to sheet dot max row. This is the command. Okay, you'll get the total number of rows, that is 4 will come. Then total columns, I want to get total columns. How many columns are there? Let's see, 1 and 2 columns. Okay, to get the total columns, sheet dot max column you have to write. Okay, that's it. Total rows we got, total columns we got. Now what next? We have to write one for loop here. For r means row, let's say r in range of. Okay, I have to read the data, right? I have to read the data from which row the data is available. Data is available from second row, not from the first row. You see, the real data is there from the second row. Username, password are only the column headings. That's why I give 2 here. Starting from 2 to total rows till the number of rows, that is 4. But here, the problem here is if 4 is there, 4 minus 1 will be taken by the for range kind of thing. Okay. So it total rows minus 1 internally will happen. So it's better to put plus 1 so that 2 to 4 will be considered. 2 to 4 means 2, 3, 4 will be considered. Okay. Now under that, here I'll create something like a row list. Okay. Row list. You see, this one should be a list of lists, because here we have to pass. When I say get data, it should be a list of multiple sets of data, right? A list will be there in that how many sets? 3 sets. So 3 lists, individual lists will be there, which I covered already here, right? Before coming here. So in this final list, the elements will be again list elements only. Okay. How many sets of data? That many sets of lists will be there. Okay. This row list is that sub list kind of thing. Okay. So I'll just say row list is empty. I'll just put, and now I'll write down for column. C stands for column. This is the inner for loop of for loop. Okay, for loop for range. Starting with column should start with 1 only. Okay, this first column, second. So here total columns will give 2, but here 2 minus 1 will be taken by the for loop. So I have to say plus 1. So that will be considered 1 comma 2. Okay. If it is 3, it is considered as 2 programmatically. Okay, if you know Python. Now for C in range of 1 comma total columns plus 1, then what I would like to do is I want to read the data from the cells with the help of this row and column. How to read the data? I have to write sheet dot. Okay. Then I have to say cell. I have to give R here, or you can say row is equal to R is also fine. Okay. Row is equal to R, column is equal to C. Like that you can give. That's okay. This is fine, or you can directly give R comma C also. Anything is fine. Okay. Those are optionals. Row is equal to, column is equal to is optional, but if you want to give, people write it, so better to write it. Dot value, it will get the cell value at this particular row and column. For example, in the first iteration, row is 2 and column is 1, 2 comma 1. The 2 comma 1, what is there? 2 is this one, 1 is this. This email address will be taken, and we'll store this email address into this particular row list. Okay. So I'll simply say row underscore list dot append. This is a list, and this is an inbuilt function of list actually in Python. Okay. So this value, that is amotori1@gmail.com, will be appended into this particular as one of the element into this row list. Okay. And after that, this inner for loop will iterate for the second time, where second row and second column, that second will be appended into this again row list. So one list containing one username and password will be there, and the for loop, inner for loop will end, where after ending, what I will do is this particular list I need to add into the final list. This list containing username, first set of data, that is username, password, should be added as a first element into this final list. To do that, I'll simply call this final list dot again append. I'll say this time I'll append this row list. This row list I'll append. Okay, row list containing the first set of credentials, that is username, password, I'll append. And finally, this external for loop will iterate how many times? 2 to 4. That is 2, 3, 4. 3 times it will iterate. Every time it iterates, inner row list will be created in the form of a list. That inner row list will be added to the final list. So 3 elements will be there in the final list, and where each and every element is a list containing username and password. Like that. Okay. Now finally, after the for loop, I am going to return this final list. How to return the final list? Return final list. Can give spaces if you want, not a problem. Okay, you can specify the spaces here for looking good, to make it look good. So this is the code we have to write: final list, workbook, loading, total rows, columns, for loop. Okay, this is actual code. Okay, by this code, right, the final list will be ready. The final list will be ready, and this final list will be returned when you call this function. So you're calling this function here. So it will contain a list of list elements where each and individual child list will contain the username and password, username and password, username and password, like that. Okay. So from here, this will be there in the first list, child list, second child list, third child. All these three lists will be part of the main list, final list. That is getting written when I call this function. So this is how we can write some logic. Okay. And we are going to improvise this to the next level. After this, let's see first of all whether it is working fine or not when I call this get data. Is this code able to read the data from this particular Excel file, three sets of data from the Excel file, and pass it here, and the parameterization is working or not in the same way or not? Let's see. Okay. This time we are getting the data from the Excel file. Get data is getting the data from the Excel file, and that is passing here in the form of list of list items. And we are passing that here. And this particular test is parameterized, which will run 3 times because 3 list items will be there. So CLS, Pytest, Pytest, -v, -s, press enter. Okay, I have made a mistake here. I have to write in Pytest, -v, -s. Okay, there's spelling mistake there. You see, the test login got executed 3 times for 3 sets of data. First set of data is amotory1@gmail.com, 2@gmail.com, 3 with passwords came, and print statements also got printed with 1 at the rate, 2 at the rate, 3 at the rate kind of stuff. That means it is working fine. This time we were reading the data from the, instead of hard coding the data here and passing it here, rather we have written the code inside this get data to read the data from the Excel file. This is the code for reading the data from the Excel file and creating that final list containing a list of list elements, and that we are passing here. Okay, we are calling means it is returning here, and we'll get the list of list elements containing multiple sets of data. For every set of data, the list, this particular test login is getting executed. That's fine. So far, that's good. Now, what I will do is I'll make this function a part of utility. Okay, rather than putting this function here, because there may be multiple test, multiple Python files having this kind of parameterized test, which have to call this kind of functions, right? So we have to reuse this function. It cannot be part of a single Python file. So what I'll do here is, as covered in the previous session, I'll be creating a directory, a folder that is utilities, press enter. After that, I'll cut this from here. I'll cut this function from there. Okay, simply cut from there. What I'm going to do, just see. That code I'll write here. Okay, I'll just create another Python file saying Excel reader or something. And here, I'll paste that get data. Okay, get data. If you want to give something like from Excel, you can give that. Okay, get data from Excel. You can give a better name if you want. And here, import this OpenPyXL and any other errors. Okay, when you call this, right, automatically. And here something got hard coded. This is part of the Excel file, and sheet name got it. Here we have to pass that. Whenever you call this utility method in this Excel reader.py file under utilities, right? You will pass this path and sheet name. Okay, here I'll say sheet name. So sheet underscore name, and here instead of hard coding this path here, I'll simply say path, and instead of hard coding this sheet, I'll say sheet name. This parameter sheet name I'll give. Okay, this is how we can make it a utility function or utility method. Now, how to make use of that? Here I cannot do like this. Rather, I have to write something. Excel reader is the name of the Python file, which is under the utilities folder, Excel reader dot. Over the mouse on Excel reader and say import this name from utilities. Then after that, you say dot get data from Excel, where I have to pass the path and sheet name. Okay. So 2 arguments we have to pass, one for the path, other for the sheet name. For path, I'll give Excel Excel files slash .com slash dot XLSX. And other thing that I have to pass here is sheet name. So I have to give comma and give the sheet name as login test. Make sure that it is given correctly. Login test is a sheet name. So this is a utility method now, and this will be called. And this will again return the same thing, that is, it will return you the final list containing list of list elements. Okay. And you see, you just convert it into a utility method. That's it. Okay. Which is a common reusable method where every Python file can call it if required. Okay. Now let's run this code and see whether it is still working fine after converting this get data method into a utility method here under Excel reader Python file. So for that, I'll go to the terminal and say CLS and type Pytest -v-s. Still, if it works fine, you get the same output, means it's working fine. You see, test login got executed 3 times with multiple sets of data like 1, 2, 3. Same thing got printed here in the form of print statements. Okay, it's working fine. This is how we can, okay, this is how, let me close all this stuff. This is how we can perform data-driven testing by reading the data from the Excel files. Okay, this is the ultimate code we have to write. So hope you understood how to perform data-driven testing. This is what we generally do in real time. Again, when the time comes, we are going to put this code into the framework part, and the things will be more easy because already we have done with this. So things will be more easy. Okay. So fine. So that's all for this session. Thank you. Bye bye.